Hi, my name is Jim Bennett, and for the next few moments I will show you how easy it is to install a stainless steel wire balustrade. First, let's examine the components you will need. Saddles as the anchor points, thimbles for the wire to wrap around, ferrules for hand crimping the wire in place, the rigging screw, jaw and wood screw, and lastly the split grommets if desired. The wire we will use will be of 7x7 or 7x19 construction. First of all, you will need to attach the saddles to the post. To do so, make up a simple template using a scrap piece of board, Next, you will need to make the correct spacings for your wires. Current BCA regulations require that your wires should be spaced at 80mm centres. Here you see the person marking them out. After marking the 80mm centres, you will need to place the saddles ready for drilling them out. In this case, the hole centres are 20mm either side of the wire centres. Once you have completed the drilling, you'll be then ready for attaching your template onto your anchor post. Next, mark the centre of your post. A handy tip is to mark that distance on a tri-square. Once you have the centre of the post, you will be ready to clamp on your template. Once it is clamped in position, you will be ready for drilling your holes for future attachment of the saddles. The holes that are currently being drilled are the ones which the saddles will screw into. Note 20mm either side of the centre line, ready for screwing the saddles onto the anchor post. It is a good idea to attach the saddles with only one screw at this stage, as they will need to be loose to allow the wire to be fed into them later. Here we see the person making up another template for both the positioning of the rigging screws and for drilling out the intermediate posts. As shown with the saddle template, start by marking out the correct spacings, usually 80mm apart. Next, measure the distance to the centre of the template. This distance will need to be marked on the 80mm spacing line. Here the person is using a tri-square to transfer this measurement. Once you have done this for all your spacing lines, you are now ready to drill. Using a 5mm drill, drill out your rigging screw template, ready for clamping onto the anchor post. Next, measure your anchor post to find its centre. Transfer this distance onto your tri-square, then mark this distance on your post. Here we see the drilling template clamped and ready to drill with a 5mm drill. Once all holes are drilled, you are ready for drilling holes through your intermediate posts. As before, mark the centre of your post. Onto this you are going to be clamping your intermediate template, the same as you made up for marking the spacings on your anchor points. It's important that it is positioned on the centre of your intermediate post. A handy tip is to mark that distance on a tri-square. Once you have transferred this distance onto your post, you'll be ready for attaching your drilling template. The template for drilling will then be securely clamped onto this post. A handy tip is to drill halfway through the post and then to relocate the template on the other side of the intermediate post and drill through. This will ensure that the wires both enter and exit square to the post. The important part now is to work out the overall lengths required for your wires. Here we see the person measuring the inside to inside distance required to cut the wires. In the case of system C, you will need to deduct 50 millimeters from this distance to allow for sufficient turnbuckle adjustment. Using a pair of parrot beak wire cutters, cut your wire to this length. Next, feed the wires through your intermediate posts. Once you have done this, you'll be ready for putting the thimbles and ferrules on the end of your wires. First, mark your wire with a permanent marker 85 millimeters from the end. Next, slide a swage ferrule over the wire and loop the wire back through the swage ferrule. Place a thimble inside the loop and squeeze up the ferrule. You will notice the black texture mark showing. Place the swage ferrule between the jaws of the hand crimper and squeeze the handles together. Attaching the looped swage end onto the saddle is easy. Pass it through the saddle, then screw the other end of the saddle to the anchor post. To attach the rigging screw to the anchor post, you will need to disassemble the wood screw section from the rigging screw body. Next, screw the wood screw section into the post. A small spanner will help do this. Another method is to put the wood screw section into a slow speed drill and screw it in. Remember, it screws in a clockwise direction. Be careful not to damage the thread, or you will not be able to reattach it to the rigging screw body. Next, reattach the rigging screw body and jaw. Wind it in until approximately only 20 mm of the thread is showing. Whilst holding the body, rotate the jaw until approximately 20 mm of the thread is showing. You are now ready to attach your swage thimble and ferrule. After removing the spring wire clip and clevis pin, insert the swage loop between the jaws. Replace the clevis pin and attach the spring wire clip. To tighten your wire, rotate the body of the rigging screw whilst holding the jaw. Continue to do so until the wire is firm. Using a rigging spanner as shown will also make the job easier. The final step is to prevent the rigging screw from coming undone. This can be done by tightening up the lock nuts as shown. If you need to remove the wood screw section, just wind another nut onto the threaded section and tightly lock it against the original nut. You can then wind out the screw section using a small spanner. Similarly, you can attach your cordless drill and wind it out, but be careful not to damage the machine thread. If you wish to insert grommets into your intermediate post, you will need a 9mm hole. Open the grommet with a suitable implement. In this case we're using a biro. Hold it to the wire, remove the biro and slide the grommet along the wire and plug it into the post. Remember, AAA Metal Suppliers for all your balustrading needs.